Greetings, welcome to Powered by Nyame. I'm your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. On this episode, we're going to focus on sleep, something which I wish I can get more of, but that's another time, another topic. For now, let's dig into what we know about sleep. We know that it has tremendous all-around benefits for our overall human health. For instance, if you're not aware, I'm sure you are, but if you're not aware, the refresher is important. Sleep improves our immune system, whereby our bodies can detect and destroy or otherwise deal with any foreign or invasive organism that may threaten our human bodies. Sleep also improves memory, it improves focus, it reduces anxiety and stress, it improves memory. Sleep also allows our body to regenerate, particularly, for example, our skin cells, which in fact regenerate every few weeks. Indeed, we lose or replace 500 million skin cells every day. And so sleep has these and so many other benefits. We know sleep also reduces high blood pressure if we get enough or sufficient amount of sleep. And we also know that sleep also is good for our overall mental, spiritual, and physical health in the long run. In other words, the numbers suggest that those who don't get enough or improper sleep lose, for women, about 5 years of their life expectancy, and for about 3 years or more for men. We also know that, for example, these sleep disorders like insomnia, narcolepsy, as well as sleep apnea. If you think about insomnia, women are 40% more likely to experience insomnia than opposed to men. Now, across the board, a third of adults, women and men across the board, do not get sufficient sleep. By sufficient, we mean at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Now, the sweet spot is actually somewhere around 8 hours, preferably 9 hours. Now, a lot of our lives affect the ability and even the opportunity to sleep well. For instance, our work schedules. Our work schedule is many times determined, if and when we do get to sleep and how we sleep, whether we sleep on modes of transport, to or from work, or we sleep on crash on our couch or futon, or wherever we may find a chance to get some reprieve, some rest. And so we all are aware that sleep is important, and we all are aware, at least some, if not most, of the benefits of getting a restful sleep, whether that be in the day, the night, or in between. However, one of the essential and perplexing questions that still remains is, why do we sleep as human beings? This is what I want to focus on in this episode here. Why do we human beings sleep in the first place? If you think about it and step back for a moment, when we sleep, we are ultimately vulnerable. Anything, whether it be of this world or the next, can attack us, and often that does happen in some, if not many cases. And so, if we're so vulnerable, if we are so at the mercy of whatever human and other forces that may be out there to attack us, to harm us, and to ultimately perhaps destroy us, why do we sleep? Counterintuitively, we sleep because it's actually a survival mechanism. You see, in early human societies, when we were more closely clustered together because of survival, and decision making and groupings were in these bands or groups that were more tightly knit, again because of survival, but also because it made sense, it meant that sleep became our way of having a chain whereby some people slept at different times. And by staggering our sleep as a group, we could in fact look out for each other within our particular grouping, our particular bands. And so, for example, you and your partner, your spouse, or whomever you sleep with, including your children, they may go to bed at different times. And in doing so, there's some of us who like to go to bed early. And in doing so, those of us who like to go to bed a little later gives you a sort of a stagger. So there's always a window whereby that window may be an hour or two, no more than 3, whereby somebody is going to be awake to look out for, to defend, and protect the group. And so by staggering our sleep, sleeping becomes actually a survival mechanism. It becomes part of our important toolkit. And so counterintuitively, you might think sleep was a deficit. In fact, sleep became a very important survival tool. Now, why do we sleep? There are physiological reasons why we sleep. In many ways, because we have to. Have you ever been so tired whereby you could not control the bite and the seduction to go to sleep? And so our bodies have to sleep. Really, we have to get rest. And the reason why we need rest is that our bodies go through two basic cycles: rest and repair. That and actually three, excuse me: rest, repair, and rebuild. And so during what we may consider to be a deep sleep, what some call REM sleep, and REM stands for rapid eye movement. And so during this deeper sleep, not a sleep in which you may be easily awakened, but a deep sleep, that deep sleep is really where we get the actual and most important work on, which is repairing, rebuilding, replacing, and essentially retooling our bodies for the next, waking day. And so not getting that deep sleep, not getting that rest leads to a whole host of mood and behavioral and psychological and even spiritual consequences. But I want to give another layer that perhaps is not more commonly discussed, which is that the reason why we sleep from a spiritual point of view and perspective that is non-physical, non-biological, or beyond simply just the biology that we have as human beings. The reason why we sleep is that we human beings are not simply, or most importantly, simply, blood plasma or physical matter, that we are spiritual beings and figures that happen to be dressed or clothed or wearing this thing, called our bodies. And so we were designed as spiritual beings having a human experience to have a process and to have a gateway for us to live our lives out, not mostly, but at least equally, as spiritual forces and beings that we are. And so we have to sleep because that's the only way that our spirit, our souls, is able to leave our bodies, do its thing, that is, go on its journey. We may call this dreaming. There are times in which your spirit can leave your body and you're not dreaming. We can talk about that perhaps in the comment section below, and I'll address your questions if there's a question for you. Nonetheless, we have to sleep and have to get rest because our spirits have to have an expression, have to have a way not to be locked into this body in a 24-hour cycle. It has to have a way. And so for those of us that experience the sleep disorders that I mentioned a moment ago, narcolepsy, insomnia, sleep apnea, or a combination of the three, it is not simply a physiological, or biological, or chemical matter that's happening in our bodies. In my view, it's a spiritual matter, because if you're unable to sleep, right, then your spirit has no way to express itself because it is locked in the prison of our physical bodies. Notice this: when we get a rest, a full rest, 8 hours, let's say, for example, we're in a better mood. Our temperament is generally speaking much more pleasant. We have more energy. We have more life. That's because we've been recharged, because our spirit has to be recharged. It has to be able to express itself outside of the encasement, or some of us, the prison that is our physical bodies. And so our spirituality is baked into our human being by way of sleep. That's the shortest way and the most succinct way I can put it. Our spirituality and the fact, right? Just like gender is a fact. We're born through a womb, right? The fact of spirituality is baked into the very structuration, the very structure of our being, the very structure of our humanness, right? And therefore sleep isn't necessarily a requirement or demand. It has to happen for us to be human beings, because we're not simply just physical matter, though that's the most immediate thing in front of us. One of the scariest things that I want you to imagine is this, potentially scary anyway, is that if you were to remove not your flesh or your skin, but to remove this physical body, what would you really look like? Think about that, right? And you do have a look, you do have a shape. And I'm gonna give you some clues. Think about the movie Avatar. Whatever you think about the movie, that's really pointless. But when you think about the movie and the characters and how they looked, we look more like them without this body than we do like what you see on this screen or whatever device may be watching this particular episode, right? How do I know this? We can discuss that later. And so the key here is that the takeaway is that sleep has all these physiological, chemical, in terms of the chemistry of our bodies, as well as psychological and psychosomatic benefits, without a doubt. But I want to add another layer that even more important, more significant, is that our spirituality is baked into our human beingness. And sleep is the way in which we maintain that stasis between the physical human material, existence and our spiritual existence that is so tightly braided into us being human beings. Without it, I dare to say, we would cease to exist as human beings, right? And if you think about it, those who are deprived of sleep, whether it be torture or self-imposed torture or tortured by somebody else, and we know this from what you may see in movies and what you may read about people being tortured with sleep or lack of sleep, they go mad. In other words, the spirit goes into chaotic mode because it's not allowed to be expressed. So please drop your questions and concerns as well as ideas in the comment section below. Until next time, stay well, sleep well.